Hi, everybody. Mrs. Troten told me you're doing some great writing. I can't wait to read it all. But we noticed through our conversations, and she was sharing the writing, that you need to go over some of the rules of punctuating conversations that your characters in your historical fiction pieces have. So today we're just going to go over some of the rules of quotation marks in conversations with characters. So you'll be better able to share your writing with the people who are reading it, and they'll be able to understand it more. So, did you know that quotation marks began by ancient Greek texts? They used to have two curved lines that represented lips of a person speaking. I think that's a great way to remember where to put the quotation marks. So one curved line was placed at the beginning as if the writer were saying, I'm going to begin to tell you something someone said. And then the other curved lines came at the end as if to say, this is the end of the exact words of the speaker. So do you notice that here in this sentence that's from May Among the Stars? What will you tell them, May? Her mom asked. The exact words that her mom said were, what will you tell them, May? And those words began with a quotation mark and ended with a quotation mark because those are the exact words that her mom said. What else do you notice? Did you notice that because of those are the exact words that her mom said, and that was the beginning of the word she said, the word what is capitalized? Whenever you begin quotes or begin by saying what a speaker is saying, you have to capitalize the first word in the same way you would capitalize the first word in a sentence. What else do you notice? So I highlighted in pink something else I'd like you to notice. And that is not only do you capitalize the first letter of the first word in the exact words as someone speaks, but you also have to put some sort of an end mark. So at the end of the word someone speaks, you're going to place some punctuation inside the quotation marks. So if the person is asking a question, then a question mark should go there. If the person is excited or the speaker is excited, then an exclamation mark would go there. Other than that, you add a comma because a period would create two sentences. So a comma is used if the quote does not require a question mark or an exclamation mark. And all three of those choices go inside the quotation marks. So these are the things that you've learned over the years, and I just reviewed them so quickly with you. But just as a reminder, when you're punctuating conversations when you write, you open and close words spoken aloud with quotation marks. I love the idea of thinking about them as lips because that will just help you remember that when the person is speaking, you're putting the quotation marks around the exact words the speaker says. The quotary mark begins with a capital letter because it's the speaker's first word. And a quote is separated from the tags. And what by tags, I mean examples like he said or she exclaimed, with a comma or a question mark or an exclamation point, but never a period. Because if you did a period and then you finished it, that thought with he said with a period, that's actually two sentences. So there's more to do when you're punctuating conversations because you're getting more sophisticated in your writing now, and you may have two or more characters in your stories speaking. So when that's happening, when you have two or more people having a conversation, you have to begin a new paragraph each time you alternate or change speakers. That's a really important thing that you might notice if you're still reading like a writer. You might not even be aware of it because it's just when you've been reading chapter books, it's just been so natural for you to have that happen in the books. But take a moment, if you haven't been noticing it, and see how all the writers that write chapter books will do that. Every time there's a character speaking and you change characters, you also have to change to a new paragraph. Here's an example of that. This is from a page taken from the book The One and Only Ivan by Catherine Applegate. It's a great book, by the way, if you haven't had a chance to read it. It's a story of a gorilla that's living in a shopping mall, and he's just gotten used to that. But then he meets a baby elephant, and things start to change. He actually becomes an artist of sorts. So it begins with Bob, help me. Notice those quotation marks in Bob, help me. I say. And it goes on. Bob takes the paintings by his teeth and drags them to me. One by one, I shove the pictures through the window crack. They crumple in tear. Someone else is speaking now. Careful, Ivan, Julia says. Those may be worth millions someday. She doesn't understand. Do you notice how there are two paragraphs so far? Because in the first paragraph, Ivan was speaking. In the second paragraph, Julia speaking. And now in the third paragraph, we have someone by the name of George speaking. So Ivan has been painting, has he? George asks. And then there's actually a fourth paragraph where Julia speaks again. A lot, says Julia with a laugh. A whole lot. You'll notice that each time there's a new character speaking, we have to change to a new paragraph. You'll also notice that we began every quote with a capital letter, and we ended with either an exclamation point or a question mark or a comma inside the quotation marks. I highlighted it right here to help you see. The first quote was by Ivan. He's the main character. I say is how the first sentence or the first quote was put together. The next paragraph is for Julia to do some speaking. The third paragraph is for George to do some speaking. In the final paragraph that I posted here is for Julia to again speak. So every time you change a speaker, and you have that person speaking with quotation marks, you have to change to a new paragraph. So let's try it out. I am giving a quick check-in, and I'm going to post this next to, or Mrs. Troten's going to post this next to this PowerPoint. So what you're going to see on the quick check-in is this paragraph. And this paragraph needs to be cleaned up a little bit because, first of all, there's quotation marks that need to be added and end marks at the end of what the characters are saying. You probably need to think about which character is speaking because you need to add paragraph to separate the speakers. So it says, do you want to leave them by the office? George asks. I'm not sure about that plan, Julia says. Then George remembered something gross. He put his gorilla fur on them, George yells. I want you to try these out. Take this in the quick check-in and correct it the best way you can so I can figure out what we need to do next. All right? I have another bonus thing I'd like you to try too. So as a bonus, and really something you should be doing anyhow, but I'd love to see it as well. I'd love you to take a piece of your own writing and share what you did because I would love to be able to share some of your writing with the rest of your classmates so that we can learn together about how to improve our writing. And in this part, we're improving our writing by understanding how we use quotation marks. So take some of your own historical fiction writing